Hello, welcome to the first video on section 2.5, Equations and Inequalities. When we're solving quadratic equations, there's three ways we can solve them. One that we're going to learn first is by factoring. Let's consider the graph of our first function, x squared plus x minus 6. So we're going to take the equation that's given, set it equal to 0, and we're going to try to factor this equation. Using our factoring skills that we have learned, we'll end up with this. From here we use our zero product property, and we will end up with -3 and 2 as a 0. Notice this is where our parabola is intersecting with the x-axis. So in other words, if we needed to list our x-intercepts, we would list those as actual coordinate points like so. So notice by factoring we can sometimes solve where our quadratic is equal to 0. Let's take a look at the graph on the next slide. At first it appears that this is not a quadratic. However, once again, we can factor this. Let's replace y with 0. And if you notice here, we can factor out a 5x squared. We have the difference of two squares here inside the parentheses. And then once again, we can use our zero product property. So right here, we'll get x to be 0, x to equal 4, and x to equal -4. Notice, these are our solutions, and this is also where the graph touches the x-axis. So if we wanted to know what our x-intercepts were, we would write them as coordinate points, as written on the graph. Let's take a look at our next slide as well. This is a more complex equation, but once again, we can look at this and realize that we're able to factor by grouping. Notice that this one is already set equal to 0 for us, so we're not going to have to do that, but we are going to use our factor by grouping methods that we've learned throughout the class. And notice once again, when we do this, we're going to end up with the difference of two squares. So this will factor a little bit more for us. Use our zero product property. And we end up with our solutions. Comparing this to the graph, you'll see this is indeed where our graph touches the x-axis. And once again, if we're asked for the x-intercepts instead of the zeros, which sometimes we will be, the only difference is you just write them as coordinate points. And that concludes our video. I hope you found this helpful.